What is up, my friends? Welcome to the Flippin' Bats emergency pod because Kyle Tucker was just traded to the Chicago Cubs. A lot to talk about here, a lot to figure out. I'm kind of going to figure things out as we talk through this. All the details are in, so waited to get all the details before coming here. I have the thoughts on the top of my head. I'm sure those thoughts will evolve throughout this conversation we're about to have, but I do have a lot of thoughts here. Ultimately, Kyle Tucker is going to Chicago to play with the Cubs in return for Isaac Paredes, third baseman, Hayden Wesneski, pitcher, and Cam Smith, big time prospect, big time third base prospect. Reportedly, the deal wasn't getting done until the Cubs added in Wesneski. He is a Houston guy, by the way. Hayden Wesneski, Houston guy, born and raised there, Sam Houston State pitcher. But the big piece here, I know the Astros liked Isaac Paredes in the here and now. They almost traded for him last year. Look, I don't love him. I don't. Call it what it is. Maybe I'll be wrong. He could. Yes, I hear you. Short porch in left field, the Crawford boxes at Minute Maid or whatever we're calling it these days. I don't love that part of this. Cam Smith is the big time prospect with the Cubs. He is now heading to Houston with the Astros in exchange for Kyle Tucker, who 1 year left on his contract and is going to be getting a lot of money. All right. So immediate thoughts. I don't love it. I don't love it for the Houston Astros. Again, I'm not in love with Isaac Paredes and the player that he is. He went over to Chicago and wasn't really good there. I don't know. Just feel like the guy has a lot of holes in his swing. Definitely has some pop. Gonna play. You'd think third base. So what does that mean for Alex Bregman? That's a different conversation. I here's what I'm struggling to come to terms with. This just came out like the last day or two of the winter meetings that the Astros were open to listening on Kyle Tucker, right? And then it becomes they're willing to trade Kyle Tucker. Then it becomes, oh my God, the Cubs and Yankees are pushing hard to get Kyle Tucker. Then it's there's interest. It all happened really quickly. So to me, there's no need to rush this, right? It just came out that they were open to trading him. Play the market a little bit. It's December 13th. And you said 2 to 3 days ago that you were open to trading him and you're all of a sudden making a deal. It was never going to be the Yankees. They were going to do anything in their power to not trade him to the Yankees, right? In the same league, they're always battling it out for the American League. It was never going to be the Yankees. So you hear the Cubs. I don't love the move off the top of my head. This is putting a lot of stock into Cam Smith, who Cam Smith has played 32 professional games, right? He might be an absolute star. He might be. He also might not be. He's played 20 games at AA, 32 games professionally. Now, across those games, he did hit 313, had 7 homers, a stretch of 6 games in a row with a homer. He's a big dude, 6'3", 224 pounds. Definitely shored up his strikeout rate a bit, really dropped it about 10% from the year prior to this year. He's not great defensively over at third base, a little bit bumbly, bit stumbly, big plus arm. I see potential of him moving to right field at some point with his arm. He's gotten better defensively, but not known for his defense. He's an offensive guy. So you are putting a lot of stock. And again, I know it's 1 year, and I've been vocal about saying it's 1 year of Kyle Tucker. If you're not going to re-sign him, go get what you can for him. But you can't tell me that in 2 or 3 days, you saw the whole market and everything you could possibly get, and this is the best possible deal. I don't love this deal. Look, there's not a lot of precedent for a big-time star getting traded before a season with 1 year left on a deal. We've seen a lot of guys traded with half a year left at the trade deadline, but Juan Soto, and we saw what the Padres got for Juan Soto. You get Michael King, Drew Thorpe, who you flipped into Dylan Cease. I'm not saying Kyle Tucker is Juan Soto. I'm saying there's not a lot of precedent here for a star like Kyle Tucker is getting traded with a full year. So I know people are throwing out the word rental, rental, rental. We throw out the word rental when you get a guy at the trade deadline. That's a rental. Having an entire year is a big deal, especially a year in which the Astros can go win a very winnable American League, in my opinion. So I felt like the market was a bit rushed here. I felt like they ended up with a deal that I think the Cubs won this. I know Cam Smith's a lot to give up. I know they think very highly about him, but for the player that Kyle Tucker is, I feel like he could get more, which leads to a different question if you're the Astros. The Astros are a winnable team. They can win now, right? And I've continually said Jim Crane doesn't believe in those 6+ year deals. Jim Crane has done things the same way over and over again. But here's where I think this is a bit of an outlier, and I get it, and it's worked for Jim Crane, and it's less of a financial thing and more of a he doesn't like signing those guys to long-term deals because with them not being a massive market team and him not one of the richest owners out there, you kind of got to be cautious about the way you go about things. But Kyle Tucker's a star. Kyle Tucker's a superstar. He's at the top of every OPS list, at the top of every OPS plus list. He's a plus defender, has a plus arm, plus offensively, good average, good power. He is an all-around package. He's not Juan Soto. Juan Soto is up there, and he's an elite hitter, an all-time great hitter. Kyle Tucker's not that offensively, but he is great offensively and way more well-rounded than Juan Soto. So to give up a year with a team that's going to be competitive, to give up a year of that, and to get a package in return that I can't sit here right now and say, wow, that's a package. That's a good package. I can't say that. I was hearing better rumors out of the Philadelphia Phillies. I was hearing better rumors with the New York Yankees, who I don't think we're ever going to get Kyle Tucker here. But if I'm Jim Crane, I look in the mirror and say, you know what? My entire tenure have said, I don't do these deals. I don't do these long-term deals. But at what point do you venture away from that? Kyle Tucker is homegrown, drafted, developed, World Series champion with your team, homegrown superstar. At what point do you say, you know what? This fan base deserves this. This fan base wants him. This organization needs him. If there's any of those guys, and by those guys, let's exclude Altuve, a little bit older in this conversation, a staple of the Astros organization. But of any of those guys, if you want to have a conversation right now about Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, Framber Valdez, Jeremy Pena, even throw Yordan Alvarez in there, which one are you picking and signing long term? I think I'm taking Kyle Tucker. So, God, this one feels frustrating to me with the Jim Crane situation and how he doesn't hand out long-term deals. Do it. Do it for this guy. And I've said, I literally just said yesterday, test the market, see what you can get. If you're not going to sign him long-term, which is going to be tough because Soto just got $765, you have to imagine Kyle Tucker's in the $300 to $400 million range. If you're not going to sign him, shop around. To me, this feels like a guy you extend a year ago or you shop longer and figure out a better deal. You are putting so much stock in Cam Smith. And again, he could be a star. It is just a lot of stock to put in a player that's played 32 professional baseball games. For the Chicago Cubs, I love this. The Chicago Cubs have been frustratingly cautious over the years. Since they've won a World Series and blew it up, Chris Bryant gone, Anthony Rizzo gone, Wilson Contreras gone. You win a World Series, you blow it up, and ever since then, just frustratingly cautious and not making the moves that need to be made, not adding when they need to. I like this for them. I like this a lot for them. Now you add a superstar. I don't say superstar lightly. You add a superstar into that lineup, into right field. Now you have a real outfield question. You have Kyle Tucker in right field. You have PCA in center field, right? Or Bellinger. Like Bellinger's a plus defender wherever you put him. But I think PCA in center field. Then in left field, you have what? Seiya Suzuki or Ian Happ. Are you putting Bellinger at first base? Then where are you putting Michael Busch, who you just traded for? Are you moving him? Like, do you trade Seiya Suzuki right now? Seiya Suzuki is a liability in the outfield, right? Let's call a spade a spade. Seiya Suzuki is not good defensively. Been good offensively. Cody Bellinger, really like what are you doing with Bellinger now? Really good out in the outfield. So just a lot of questions. And I think there's a lot of flexibility here to trade somebody. Do you trade Seiya Suzuki? You need pitching. Do you trade Seiya Suzuki for pitching? Do you trade? I hold on to PCA. I think he is blossoming into a really good player. Second half of the year, late in the year, was really, really good. I think you hold on to him. Do you flip Busch back around? Do you flip Bellinger around for starting pitching? I don't know, but there's now a lot of flexibility. I really like this for the Cubs. I know fans are going to listen to this and say Cam Smith was a lot to give up for a one-year rental. 2, get Kyle Tucker in-house. Show him how great Wrigley Field is. Show him how great the Chicago Cubs fan base is and talk to him about an extension. Bring him in-house and immediately say, Kyle, we want to extend you. If you want to go to free agency and test free agency, fine, we're going to be a big player in that. If you want to get extended right now, we're willing to offer you quite a deal right now. But get that done. But you have a far better chance of signing Kyle Tucker or extending Kyle Tucker with him in-house. So I like it. I like it for the Cubs. I don't like it for the Astros. The more I talked through this, I said I was going to think through it. I did. I don't like it for the Houston Astros. I don't. You're in a win here and now time. And in the here and now, the only thing you're getting is Isaac Paredes and Hayden Wesneski. The rotation's in good shape. Hayden Wesneski has good stuff, can maybe figure it out, but he's not going to be a playoff top 3 starter. Isaac Paredes. What does this mean for Alex Bregman? Is Alex Bregman now gone? I just talked about how Kyle Tucker is never going to the Yankees. Well, is Alex Bregman going to the Yankees? Well, that's a free agent. It's not a trade thing. Alex Bregman might be going to the Yankees now. Isaac Paredes, your third baseman. Are you re-signing him? If you don't re-sign Alex Bregman, this trade is just it. The team went from an A- to a C+ this offseason. Man, I just you can't look at Jim Crane and say that he hasn't done things well over the last decade, right? He's a massive part of the reason of the Astros' success. And he does things a certain way. But you haven't had a Kyle Tucker type player. And as I think through that, I don't think I put Carlos Correa in that same realm. On the pitching side of things, it's a little bit different. Garrett Cole, obviously. But offensively, you haven't had a Kyle Tucker type of player. Jose Altuve is a stud. You did sign him to be an Astro for life, but he's later on in his career. You had Kyle Tucker come up as an absolute superstar, and I think if there's ever a chance to sway from your typical status quo and sign a player long-term, it's Kyle Tucker. But you didn't do that, and if you're not going to do it, then you have to go trade him. That's what they did, but I don't think this was the trade. I don't love the return. I don't. And it's because prospects are suspects until they become somebody. We've seen both ends of this coin, right? Fernando Tatis to the Padres for, in a deal that's James Shields and just a massive, like, what are we doing here sort of trade. We've seen both sides of that. We've seen Juan Soto. Padres are involved in this a lot. But then they send out players that end up becoming something. James Woods, CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore. So, but my opinion, especially with a year of control, is prospects are suspects until they prove otherwise. And a guy that has played 32 games professionally, if you could get me a deal that involves a young major leaguer with a lot of talent, yes. Also stars, that's one thing. But this is a prospect that has shown a lot of potential, that has played in about a month's worth of professional games, that has looked really good when he has played. But Paredes controllable for a few years. I like his potential in Minute Maid Park, but I don't love him as sorry, it's not Minute Maid anymore. But I don't love I don't love him as a player. He can hit well there. He can pull the ball down the line. He'll hit some homers. He'll hit maybe 30 plus homers. Maybe. But he's controllable for a few years. He's a 2028 free agent. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I keep talking through it, and I keep coming back to the same place. Cubs win the trade. Astros lose the trade. Shop around Kyle Tucker a little bit more. Get a bit better of a deal, in my opinion, and or sign him. Or sign him long term and continue your run of dominance. It's still a good team. It's still a team that has the potential to win the American League and go to the World Series. So those are my thoughts. This is the Emergency Pod. Thank you all for listening. This all just came out today. It's all happening now, but it is official. Kyle Tucker is heading to the Chicago Cubs, who, no bones about it, got a lot better today. The Chicago Cubs got a lot better today for this year, and if they can sign him long term for a long time to come. Thank you all for listening and watching. If you listen, please hit that subscribe, follow button wherever you're listening, Apple, Spotify, wherever. Leave a 5-star review. We also put everything out on our YouTube channel, the Flippin' Bats Pod YouTube channel. Leave a comment, like it, subscribe on YouTube, watch everything we do. Really fun hopping in the comments as well, so leave a comment there. And we're on all social media as well. So love you guys. Love this Flippin' Bats community. Kyle Tucker is heading to Chicago to the Cubs in exchange for Isaac Paredes, Hayden Wesneski, Houston native, and Cam Smith, big-time prospect with the Chicago Cubs. So there you have it. Good stuff. That does it for the Flippin' Bats Emergency Pod. Until next time, my friends, remember, find your bat and flip it. Peace.